Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to all of us. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin, wa bihi nasta'in ala umuri dunya waddin, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursalin, sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad, kama sallaita ala sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali sayyidina Ibrahim. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, respectable Rector of University of Islam Malang, Professor Dr. Maskuri MSc, respectable the Director of Postgraduate Program Unisma Malang, Professor M. Masud Said, PhD, Honorable our keynote speakers, Mr. Joshua M. Tokar, Virtual English Language Relo Fellow from USA at Unisma Malang, Professor Junaidi Mr. PhD, our Professor of English Language Teaching at the University of Islam Malang, respectable Mr. Surendra Mukherjee, Mr. Ren, the Chief Technology Officer from Akadasia, Singapore, respectable Professor Adnan Latif, PhD, our Professor of English Language Teaching at the University of Islam Malang, respectable Ibu Dr. Haja Mutmainah Mustafa, MPD, the head of Master Degree Program of English Language Education, Postgraduate Program, University of Islam Malang, Bapak Ibu, faculty members, researchers, teachers, students, and all participants, international webinar with the title Virtual English Language Teaching and Learning during COVID-19 pandemic, hosted by Master Degree Program in English Language Teaching, Postgraduate Program, University of Islam Malang. Salawat and salam always be delivered to our Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who has guided us to the teaching of Islam. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, to start our international webinar this afternoon, let's recite Surah Al-Fatiha together, hoping that our program can be beneficial for us, for all of us. Ala hadiniyah, ala kulli niyatin salihah, Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin, ar-rahmanir rahim, maliki yawmiddin, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Bapak Ibu, our next agenda will be the singing of Indonesian national anthem. Bapak Ibu, let's sing Indonesian national anthem together. Thank you very much, Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda will be the recitation of Sholawat Nuril Anwar together. Let's recite Sholawat Nuril Anwar together.
Allahumma salli ala nuril anwar wa sirril asrari wa tiryakil aghyar wa مفتاح باب اليسار سيدنا ومولانا محمد المختار وآله الأطهار وأصحابه الأخيار عدد نعم الله وإفضاله عدد نعم الله وإفضاله.
Thank you very much. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, today in this international webinar, we will be having the opening speech, which will be delivered by the Rector of University of Islam Malang, and officially open this international webinar. I would like to invite Professor Dr. Mukherjee, MSc, to give an opening speech and officially open this international webinar today. Please join us in welcoming Professor Dr. Mukherjee, MSc.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, respectable, distinguished keynote speakers of the international webinar on virtual English language teaching and learning during COVID-19 pandemic 2021. Mr. Joshua Entokar, virtual English language fellow from United States of America and University of Islam Malang. Professor Junaidi Mistar Desi, Professor of English Language Teaching, University of Islam Malang. Professor M. Adnan Latif, MA, PhD, Professor of English Language Teaching, University of Islam Malang. Mr. Surendra Mukherjee, Chief Technology Officer, Akademia Singapore. Respectable Professor Masud Said, MPhD, Director of Postgraduate Program of University of Islam Malang. Ibu Dr. Hajiah Mutmainah Mustafa, the Head of Master's Degree Program in English Language Education, the webinar committee, administrators, faculty members, on all participants of this International Webinar 2021. On behalf of University of Islam Malang, I am very happy to welcome our keynote speaker from United States of America, Singapore, and Indonesia. Welcome to Unisma Malang. University of Islam Malang has been developing its national and international reputation through excellent services, achievement, and joint international program. University of Islam Malang is from Nahdlatul Ulama for Indonesia and world civilization. Ladies and gentlemen, the freedom of campus and the freedom of learning program from the Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia are important programs to produce more innovation and creativity in education, research, entrepreneurship, and community services. We at University of Islam Malang are transforming our institution from the milestone of teaching institution into research and entrepreneurial milestone. The integration of teaching, research, and entrepreneurship is an excellent foundation for us to be a world-class university. Ladies and gentlemen, this international webinar is very important for us to share state of the art in the area of virtual English language teaching and learning. The speakers will share very important topic related to ICT-based material development. Student self-assessment, virtual classroom, action, research, and online global learning community. Therefore, I hope you can participate in all the webinar program and benefit from them for your personal and professional development purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Unisma Malang, I would like to deliver my appreciation to the organizing committee from the master's degree program of English language teaching, postgraduate program of University of Islam Malang, as the host who has organized this international webinar on English language teaching and learning 2021 successfully. Although we meet online, not in face-to-face model, I believe it will not stop our innovation and creativity in English language learning, teaching and research, and from advancing social science and technology for a better and more harmonious life for all human beings. Ladies and gentlemen, by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I officially open this International Webinar 2021 with the theme International Webinar on Virtual English Language Teaching and Learning During COVID-19 Pandemic, organized by Master's Degree Program of English Language Education Postgraduate Program, University of Islam Malang. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so very much, Professor Dr. Masguri. Our next agenda will be the photo session. I would like to invite Professor Dr. Masguri, MSc, and our keynote speaker, Mr. Joshua Tokar, and then Mr. Surendra Mukherjee, and then I would like also invite Professor Junaidi Mistar, and then also I would like to invite the Director of Postgraduate Program, Professor Dr. Masud Said, PhD, and then the Head of the English Language Teaching Program, Ibu Dr. Mutmainah Mustafa, to take a photo session together. I would like to count into 3, and then we will have a photo session documented by our IT team. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more, please. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so very much, our rector, Professor Dr. Masguri, MSc, for the opening speech. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda will be a presentation from the keynote speakers. And of course, after the presentation, we will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. And for closing ceremony, we will have Professor Masud Said, PhD, to officially close our webinar this afternoon after we have a discussion session at the end of our international webinar program. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda will be the presentation from our keynote speakers, and the moderator for this presentation will be our colleague from the Master Degree Program of English Language Education Program, Postgraduate Program, University of Islam Malang, Dr. Zulfikri, MPD. He was a fellow from University of Hawaii, United States of America, and he received his PhD from the State University of Malang, and now currently, in addition to teaching at the Master Degree Program in English Language Teaching Program, he also teaches at the English Language Education Program at the Faculty of Teacher Training and Education Program, University of Islam Malang. Without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Zulfikri, MPD, to be a moderator for our next session, which is keynote presentation. Time is yours, Dr. Zulfikri, MPD.
Okay, thanks a lot, Pak Imam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil mursalin wa ala nabiyyina Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam, amma ba'du. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Dear all participants and keynote speakers, again, welcome to our international webinar on virtual English language teaching and learning during COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, to shorten times, I would like to tell a bit about the rules of this international webinar because of the time constraint. The four keynote speakers will present their topics in their own expertises. And then while presenting, the participant might pose, or you may pose the question on the chat box rather than questioning directly or after the presentations. So before coming to further discussion or talk on different topics, well, let me introduce the keynote speakers today. The first one is Joshua Tokar. Joshua Tokar is English Language Fellow with U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. Right now, he is also a guest lecturer in ELT program at University of Islam Malang. And Joshua M. Tokar earned MA in English as second language from Hamline University, Minnesota, where he was born. But right now, he is living in Ukraine with his family. That's all the short biography about Joshua M. Tokar. Now, let's welcome the first presenter or keynote speaker, Joshua M. Tokar, who will talk about ICT-based material development in English language teaching. And let's invite him and give a round of applause.
Well, thank you so much for that very kind welcome, and it's a real honor and a pleasure to be with all of you today. And as usual, in this unusual time of COVID-19 and doing things online and virtual, it's always strange, isn't it, when we can't really all see each other. We have over 300 people here right now on this webinar, but we can't really look at each other and see each other very well. So we're all getting used to looking at the little light at the top of our computer, and that's our new audience, the little light on the top of our computer. But I'm really grateful to be here, and so happy to have this opportunity to share a little bit with you about my experience, and also just to try to share a little bit of a different perspective on using technology for language teaching. And I hope it will be useful to you and also give you a different point of view. One particular book that was helpful for me, especially in helping shape my perspective about this, was a book called Brave New Digital Classroom. I really recommend it. It's not a very large book, and it's not too difficult of a read. It has an interesting perspective, and I learned a lot from that book. So I encourage you, if you have an opportunity to get that book, you can try to find that. So what I want to do today is to look at ICT-based material development, the utilization of technology in language teaching from the perspective of human qualities. And so we're going to look at 6 very unique human qualities that are also play a very important role in the language learning process, and we're going to tie that in with our use of technology, okay? So the first one of those is called Homo loquens, okay? Homo loquens is the idea that, language essentially itself is human. There's nothing more human than language and speech. And so this is an incredibly important concept to consider, that, you know, the foundation of us being human, it's what makes us human and separates us from all other creatures on the earth, is our ability to speak and to communicate in that way. Okay. Yes, other creatures communicate to a certain degree, but we're the only people who can actually make thoughts, think critically, and talk together using language. We're the only ones with language. Okay, so one thing when we take a look at technology related to this is that when we think about it, technology is a result of human language on its own. So when we look at especially modern technologies of computer technology, none of this technology would be possible without language in the first place. And when you look at modern computing technology, language really is the underpinning, it is the basis of all modern computer technology. And there's even a code, a linguistic code, which is behind all of the technology that we are using today in the programming. And so when we think about that from that perspective and look at using technology in our language teaching and learning, it just makes sense that we should use it because it's just so natural as a part of language itself. And so language and technology just go together. So it's not really a question like we're taking language and adding technology. Language and technology are really almost in some ways one and the same. So it's just natural that we should use it as a part of our language teaching. Okay, now there's a couple of things I'm calling myths right now, okay? There's kind of 4 myths, I think, out there about technology and language teaching. And it might not be the best to call it a myth. Maybe it's better to say they are like misunderstandings or misconceptions, but myths is shorter. So I'm going to use the words myth. But there's 4 kind of myths out there, okay? One is that language teaching plus technology equals better, okay? Now, with this one, the idea is that if anything we do, if we just add technology to it, it's automatically going to be better, okay? And this is not exactly true, okay? And we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but just adding technology doesn't necessarily make your language teaching or language learning any better. It can, but it's not automatic, okay? The second one is that technology, or using technology in some way, is some kind of a new methodology in language teaching. And this is not also not true. Technology can help our methodology, but technology itself is
Bapak Ibu, can you listen to Pak Jos?
No, I cannot hear.
I cannot, Pak Imam,
George
but
is
I
muted, Pak
can
Imam.
listen your voice. Maybe something problem with Pak Josh. Hello, Pak Josh.
Looks like Pak Jos is having problem with
Yeah, I
his
think
internet
so.
connection. Yeah.
I think so.
Because of the technology.
Technology and methodology. Hello, Pak Jos. We are waiting for a moment, Pak Imam.
Sorry, Bapak Ibu, Pak Jos' computer was crashed, so need to take like a couple of minutes so that he could join us again.
Oh, I see. No problem, Pak Imam.
Okay, he's back.
Oh, good. What happened with Pak Supriyanto, Mas Imam? Pak Supriyanto, raise your hand. What happened? Maybe Pak Supriyanto want to say something.
Okay, I'm back, I think. Oh man, I am so sorry.
Oh, no problem, Pak Jas.
That's-
Okay. Yeah.
Technology. That's the first time that's happened to me, actually. I've had a lot of things happen with technology, but that's the first time that my computer has ever just crashed. So for some reason, my computer just shut down. I don't know why. Okay, so hopefully that won't happen again. Okay, my apologies. All right, so technology is not a new methodology, okay? Our methodology is still the same. We're just using technology to try to help us fulfill and do that, accomplish the methodology that we have for teaching. Okay, it's not possible to keep up with technology is the third myth, okay? And to a certain degree, this one also is true. They all have a certain element of truth to these myths, but they're not completely true. So it is really hard to keep up with all the technology, and there's always new things coming about, and tools and different things that we used before. Some of them are dying and going away, and new ones are coming. But just because we can't necessarily know everything about what's available to us doesn't mean we shouldn't still use technology. We don't have to use it all, and we don't have to know about all the different things that are out there, but we should still try to use it. Okay, and the last one is that technology will replace teachers, okay? And we're gonna look at some things today that might make you think that, yeah, that might happen. But I want to encourage you that I don't think teachers will ever go away, because students, regardless of what types of technologies they may be using, even if you know, they don't need always to just have a teacher with them. They can use some other programs to help them in their learning. They always are going to need the guidance of a professional teacher to help them along the way. Okay, so those are just some myths about language teaching and technology. Okay, the next quality, human quality, is Homo Analyticus, which means essentially our human nature to analyze, okay? That's very natural to us. We are doing this even every day, very subconsciously even, just as we are walking down the street and, you know, trying to avoid certain situations or considering what we should do. We're constantly in a mode of analyzing. And so when we think about that, and think about technology, we should also be analytical as we approach technology, okay? So talked about, technology doesn't just automatically make our language teaching better. So we need to approach technology from an analytical standpoint and think about how it is helpful to us, okay? And some ways that we can do that are the use of checklists, for example, okay? And let's see, I'm sorry. When my computer crashed, all my different screens also closed at the same time. So let me see if I can get this back again. But there are lots of checklists out there already. You can develop your own checklists, but there are a lot of very good ones that are there. Let's see, I just found it. I'm going to send you one link to one of the checklists done by Eurocall that maybe will be helpful to you. Okay. Okay, I'm just sent that in the chat, so if you want to, you can open that for yourself. But the use of checklists can be very valuable when we approach some kind of a new tool or digital technology that we want to maybe use in our teaching. We can kind of go through a checklist and think critically about, is it helping us really to do what we want to do with it? Okay, is it going to help me with my teaching, with my students' learning, or not? Okay, and that will help us to think more critically about those. Okay, we can also use descriptors. These are things like from the Common European Framework of Reference, for example, when we have these different levels you're probably familiar with, like A1, A2, B1, B2. There are other types of scales and other systems of descriptors, but these have often these can-do statements, like at this level, a student, should be able to do this, should be able to order food at a restaurant or whatever it is. There's a lot of these different can-do statements and descriptors. We can use those also to help us to evaluate whether the program or the what we're using is useful or not. Okay, and the other side of this also is to encourage learners to be analysts themselves, okay? And this can be done by encouraging learner autonomy, okay? And we can do that in a number of different ways, including making instructions and goals very clear to the learner. And we can also allow learners to create their own goals and think about like what do they actually want to learn during this process. We can encourage learners to use their second language outside of class using other kinds of technology that we'll look at in a little bit. Okay, we can raise awareness of the learning processes by helping them to self-evaluate their own progress. And we can encourage different choices by giving more options to our learners during the learning process. We can even allow learners to generate their own tasks. This is kind of scary as teachers, but giving them more control over their learning and what's of interest to them really helps in that way. And we can encourage learners to become teachers also, where they can also teach something that they know about the language. They can do that in groups, even amongst their peers. And there are also other online options as well, so language learning social networks, which we'll look at in a moment, where students can pair with other people around the world even who are interested in learning each other's languages, and they can teach each other essentially a language. So we can encourage those kind of ways where learners can be more autonomous and take more control of their learning. Okay, the next quality is Homo Socialis, which is the idea that humans are social beings. Okay, we are inclined to being social. There's some more social than others, but we all have a certain need for being in community and being with others. And so that's a very important aspect. And when we look at technology, even from the earliest computing technology, the whole social aspect of our human nature was present. And we saw that with the creation of email very early on, and later it became very popular as a way to communicate. Listservs, which were just basically email newsletters, which would be sent to a mass amount of people where they could communicate information. Okay, there was developed asynchronous discussion forums where people could get on at different times, but join a discussion, not necessarily live, but they could join a discussion and discuss things. There were blogs where people could publish on their own, and people could comment or respond to that. Wikis where people would work together to create something online, and then chat. Okay, and there are lots of advantages to these types of using this type of computer-mediated communication. And one of those is that you have more time for language processing. Okay, so if we want to compare doing this with like a live conversation with somebody, or our discussions in a classroom, using these kinds of tools, online tools, we have more time for language processing. Okay, when we communicate in this way online, messages are available for continued processing and modification. So students can look at those responses from others, and they have more time to make up their own response. So students have more time also to think about it and to respond. And there's a lot about second language acquisition and an understanding of that. You know, there's a certain amount of time. There's time that's needed to be able to process and think how this language is working and be able to try it. Okay, people are more aware or notice their mistakes more when they have that time to process. Okay, because they can look at the language and consider and make changes and edit the use of their own language. And there's less anxiety. Okay, there's a lot less anxiety when you are not exactly face-to-face and you don't have the pressure to make a response immediately. Okay, you have a moment to think and you can consider how you will respond. Okay, so the other kind of social type of technology now that's out there are language learning social networks, and these are things that feel very much like Facebook or Instagram or things like that, but they're with the purpose of trying to learn a language, and often these are peer-to-peer type of connections. They're not like a teacher and student connection, but student and student, they can get together. Maybe one wants to learn Indonesian, the other wants to learn English, and an Indonesian student and American student, for example, can connect on this social network and begin to communicate to each other. They can learn from each other about their languages that they know. Okay, and they can share posts, they can, and people can correct the language and things like that. Okay, so the question is face-to-face better than online? And the easy answer is that that's not necessarily true. Languages are learned through social interaction. We do understand that from understanding how languages are learned. So social interaction is very important, but it's not necessary that it has to be face-to-face, that it has to be in the classroom. And so while many of us might prefer the being physically present and being face-to-face, that's not the only way that we can learn language. Okay, online interaction is not necessarily worse than face-to-face, and Even when we don't have a live video feed like we can do here on Zoom today, even if we are just putting things in the chat, like we will be later today, okay? I know that some of you maybe will post some questions or comments or things like that in the chat on Zoom. Well, you know, that would be impossible. It would be impossible for you to participate in another way with such a large group, right? And so what studies also found, though, is that when we are chatting with others online, that kind of conversation in a chat is very much the same as how we would speak to each other. Okay, it's not the same as like if we were writing a book or something like that. Okay, we are communicating together in a chat the same way like we would, the same kind of language we would use if we were face to face. So it's very useful. So online interaction is not worse than face to face. Okay, let's take a look at Homo faber, okay? And Homo faber is this concept that humans are tool users and we are tool makers, okay? And there are a number of tools that we are employing in language teaching and learning today, and one of those is tutorial calls, call standing for computer assisted language learning. And tutorial call are those types of programs like Duolingo, like Rosetta Stone, where you've probably, many of you have maybe tried Duolingo, for example, before, where you have kind of a set program to go through. You don't have necessarily a lot of control over that process. You kind of move from one thing to the next, and it's kind of a tutorial. Rosetta Stone is similar in that way. You kind of move through different lessons as you go. Okay, those are some examples of some tutorial call. There are audio video tools. All of us are familiar with things like YouTube and others that we can use to create video and audio, but there are also a lot of other online tools that help us to use what videos are online in a better way. So there's something called, for example, Edpuzzle, and let's see if I can show you that real quick about Edpuzzle, which basically allows you to take any video and turn it into a lesson. Okay. Let's see. Hopefully I'm sharing the correct thing, and I need to make sure, of course, that I turn the sound on. Okay, that's very important. Sorry about the advertisement.
Want to create amazing video lessons in minutes? Edpuzzle is your missing piece. With Edpuzzle, you can choose from the millions of videos available from YouTube, National Geographic, TED Talks, Khan Academy, and more. You can also reuse ready-to-go video lessons made by other teachers or upload your very own teaching video. Then, use Edpuzzle's video editor to create your perfect lesson. Embed your own questions to check your students' understanding, cut sections to show your students only the most important parts of the video, and even record voiceover so you can explain concepts in your own words. Once you've finished, you can assign it to your students in just one click and prevent skipping to make sure your students don't miss a thing. When you want to check in on your students' progress, use Edpuzzle's hassle-free analytics to get all the information you need. See who still needs to watch the video, what your students responded, and their total scores. So remember, with Edpuzzle's free platform, you can make any video your lesson.
Okay, so that's a little about Edpuzzle. There's also Insert Learning. I won't look at that right now, but that is basically a program where you can take any website, any web page, and you can also turn that into a lesson and assign it to students. You can add discussion forums right in the web page. You can add highlights, comments. You can post a video inside the web page. So any web page you can take and turn into a lesson also, which allows people then, students, to interact. So if you imagine handing out a piece of paper like to each of your students and saying, read this and then write your thoughts about this. Okay, well, how much more valuable if they can read it together, even if they're not in the same room, and they can be in a discussion together about what they're reading. Okay, so that's some very valuable resources. Okay, the other is automated speech recognition and speech to text. Okay, and if I can, I'll try to, I don't know if it's going to be, no, it's not going to be possible for me to do this right now, but many of you are familiar with automatic speech recognition, and there are things like even on Google, which you may have used many times, right, where you just click on the microphone and you can speak, and then it will either respond to you, or you can look up something on the internet. Okay, this type of technology can be very useful, especially for thinking about pronunciation and training in that way. So we can, there are a program like Isprak, it's called ISPRAAK.com. But there's also, if we just use like Google voice to text, things like that, we can use this as a way of training students' pronunciation, okay, and making them aware. There are some downsides, negatives to it, because many of these programs are based on native speaker language, you know, so it's listening for that native speaker, maybe accent, so there's kind of some limitation to that, but it does help raise awareness to how we are speaking, and can be very valuable. Okay, iCall is another part of the call field where we have, if you've ever used before online, sometimes they have these automatic customer assistants that just pop up, and there's a chat that you can begin to write into, and it's not an actual person there. It's not a real person, right? It's artificial intelligence that's giving you information back. Okay, so that's what that is, and that could also be very useful. There's not a lot of those out there right now, but those are ways that people can try out language, and they can get instant feedback, is, you know, based on the response they get, you know, maybe I didn't, you know, ask that in the right way, or didn't write the correct thing, because you can get that instant feedback. Okay, we have also AR and VR. This is augmented reality and virtual reality. There's also, you know, just generally mixed reality, which is in the middle there somewhere. But these are technologies that help to put us in a different context. Okay, AR or augmented reality, you know, that's when we are using the real world around us and adding some augmented element to it, sort of kind of like my presentation, right, which is not really right here, but it looks like it is in the room. But virtual reality is when we, you know, even use our phone or something, and we're covering our whole eyes, right, and we're just in a whole different world in our mind, but we're actually still sitting in the same room. Okay, and there's this kind of technology feels like it's very not easy to do, or very expensive or something like that, but they're actually, you know, if you actually have a phone, basically you can do any of these things with just the use of a phone. So a couple things just to share real quickly I'd like to share about that. And artificial humans. Okay, I'm going to share just 3 quick videos right now, if I can, about AR, VR, and artificial humans. Now, artificial humans are essentially humans that are not real, but they very much look and feel and act like a human. And it's a this is not something that's available quite yet, but maybe you can imagine in the future that we might be able to use artificial humans to practice and use language when we are ready, when we want to. We don't need to wait to find a native speaker or someone else to speak to. We can speak with an artificial human. Okay, let me get back to sharing that screen again if I can. You know, during this pandemic time, I realized, you know, I need I have only 2 screens right now, and I think I need about 10. I think I need 10 screens to make this work. Okay. My apologies, everyone. Okay. There we go. Finally found it.
How do you like it here? Here's your change.
Keep the change. Would Hello. Nice to meet you. How are you?
How do you like it here? Here's your change.
Keep the change. Would you like a room with a view? Would you like some food? A salad would like. Please repeat. I would like a salad, please.
Welcome to the monthly AR experience. Let's learn Spanish. A lion is un león. You can come closer to take a look. Now tap on the elephant and see what happens. Repeat after me. Un limón.
Un limón.
Well done. Let's practice conversations.
Hola, ¿qué desea?
Agua con león.
¿Seguro?
Agua con limón, por favor.
Hola.
Buenos días.
Amigo, ¿cómo te llamas?
Artificial human. It's a little bit different from an AI. I was computationally created based on how real humans look and behave. Every neon has a unique personality, emotion, and intelligence. I'll help you find your style. I'll let you know what's happening around you. I'll guide your journey. I'll help you find your inner peace. I'll be someone you'll share your idea with. My dream is to help humans become even more human than ever before. What's happening around?
Okay, so just a few little insights about that. So AR, VR, and artificial humans. There's a number, so many tools out there and available to us. We just need to explore and see how they might be useful and helpful to us in language teaching and learning. And some things like artificial humans are not really available to us yet, but maybe someday. Okay. The others are LMSs. So these are learning management systems, which are things like Moodle, Edmodo, or Google Classroom, and there are many others that help us to integrate all of these different digital tools into one place, where it's a convenient place for students to go and to learn these things. So I encourage you to look at these different possibilities too. Moodle in particular is a very powerful LMS system that is essentially free. If you have a server and are able to host Moodle, you can use it for free. Otherwise, there is a paid cloud-based version that you can use also if you want to help you with that as well. Okay. I know our time is getting short here, and I especially lost some time when I got disconnected from you, so I'm going to try to skip ahead a little bit here. Homo ludens is the concept of humans learning through play, and any of you who have been around small children understand that even from a very small age, children are already learning immediately and they're playing. I can remember my own 3 boys, and even very little, even when before they could walk, you know, they would take a little car and they were driving and brrr, making sounds with the car, and they were already playing and practicing. And you know, it makes so much sense that we start by playing first. We pretend and imagine situations before we actually do the real thing. And so why not do that also with language? We should do that with language. Okay, play is a very powerful concept in language learning. And, you know, there's kind of a little bit of a difference when we look at playing and games. You know, one thing is that we can look on the one side and see, you know, playing games, okay? But there's also a concept of gamification, okay? So playing games is when we are using different types of games in our teaching, okay? We might take a moment, okay, now we're going to play a game, okay? Whereas gamification is when we turn the whole learning process into a game, okay? So we're not just playing games, we're making kind of the whole class a game, so to speak, okay? And that might even look things like this. You probably can't see this very well, but this is one way, like, for example, in one of my classes where I decided instead of showing grades, you know, typically our typical approach to grading, for example, is that, you know, we start at 100%, right? And then as we make mistakes, our grade keeps going down, right? So our focus is always on the things we do wrong and the negative things. Whereas, you know, when you play games, you're never focused usually on that. You're focused on, you know, did I reach the goal? Did I pass the level? Did I make it to the next step? So we're always like focused on our progress versus on, you know, the things we did, you know, wrong. So one thing we can do is just, you know, even change our perspective of how we look at the grades. You know, instead of showing, you know, how bad you did, we can show like how much progress you've made. And so this is just like one of the, you know, ways that I did that in one of my classes, just showing, okay, there's some different progress and you can earn some different awards or badges if you reach this certain level or something like that. Okay, so that encourages and awakens in us our natural human tendency to want to play, and so that's gamification. Playing games is also very useful. Gamification also useful. So there's an interesting question related to playing that I think is interesting with language learning, and one is, you know, are we learning to play or are we playing to learn? Okay, and not one of these is more correct than the other, but learning to play is the idea that we need to learn something. Okay, we want to be able to play this game, but in order to play the game, we need to learn something in order to be successful at the game, okay? So language learning happens in the process of trying to and wanting to play the game, okay? The other concept is playing. So we're playing a game and learning some language as we play, okay? So the game is the learning of the language, okay? Okay, so can you understand the difference? In the first one, the game isn't learning language, but we need to learn language to play the game, okay? And the second one down here, it's that we need to, we're playing and the game is learning language, okay? Okay, so there's different ways to play and learn language, and not one is more correct than the other, but, you know, we need to think about that. You know, is it, you know, the motivator to learn so that we can play the game, or are we using game to learn language, and we just know people like to play, so we do it that way? So there's different ways and perspectives there to look at that as well. There's a lot of games available online, and those that are also related to language learning. Minecraft is very popular right now, and there's a whole Minecraft education that is available also. Okay, so you can go to Minecraft education and learn more about that. Okay, the last thing, I know I'm getting short on time, and I apologize if I've gone over. That's Homo fabulans, okay? And this is the idea that we as humans are storytellers. We like to tell stories. We're always telling stories, actually. And when we're together in community, it's just, you can, when your family comes over to your house, right? And relatives, you know, for hours and hours. Everyone's just constantly talking and telling stories of some kind. Okay, so we are just storytellers. It's natural to us. So that should be a part of language learning as well. Just wanted to share just a brief experience from our class this semester. For example, we decided to think about our natural tendency to be storytellers. We decided to do a project that students needed to create this news program where they had guests on the show and they were sharing their opinions on a situation. Okay, so basically they would get together and everyone would have a chance to express their opinion, and expressing our opinions is one way that we, you know, can tell a story, that we want to share something with others, with the world. Okay, but behind this whole project, if you would watch this video, you would really like it. It's a really good video, and it's really well done. The students did a really great job. Okay, but one thing you might not realize is that behind that whole process, there was a lot of other things going on, including collaborative writing, where the students had to get together before they created this video, and they needed to write out a script together of what they would say and how their program would go, what they would talk about. And so they were using, you know, cloud technology like Google Docs, where students can come together all at the same time, and they can use that document and write together at the same time, and they can see real time who's doing what and what changes are being made and by which students. So we have technology today where we don't have to be around the same table to work together. We can even do it online, and we don't have to even be live in a video to do that. Okay, there are other things like Pixton, which is also a really great tool, which is free, and so it's available also to you. You can go to Pixton edu, and here students and teachers all can work together and even individually to create and write different stories. And this is particularly fun, even for adults, I think, to make and create different avatars and characters and write a story in the form of like a comic strip. And so this is a really great way to write stories in a way, and using technology to do it and make it more fun than if it was just on paper. Okay, and on that kind of program, students can make avatars. This is just a picture of one of our classes at Unisma, of different avatars that we created as a class, and we were able to take a class picture using avatars. And the power of using avatars like this, especially in language learning, a very important part of language learning is the development of a new identity, this kind of bilingual second language identity. And being able to use avatars helps people to be able to explore their new identity as a second language speaker, or third language speaker, or fourth language for many of you. But as every language and culture we begin to come in contact with affects and changes us in some way. And so this is a great place. Being able to use this kind of technology helps people to explore that identity. Okay, so that was Homo fabuliens and storytelling. I've talked a lot already, and I think I'm going to end it right there. I wish we would have more time to explore a lot of different other technologies out there, but my hope is that you had an opportunity to see that there's a lot available to you, and I hope this has encouraged you to explore and to use technology to help you fulfill your pedagogy, your teaching goals, and what you hope to do as a language teacher. Adding technology to it can help you to do it better. Okay, I'm going to stop. Are there any questions? Or maybe we don't have time for questions.
Okay, thanks a lot, Pak Joshua Tokar. Okay, thanks a lot for the elaboration and your demonstration on how technology can help learners in language learnings. Okay, well, now let's come to the second presenter or keynote speaker, Prof. Junaidi Mistar. Prof. Junaidi Mistar is the professor at the LT program at this university, Unisma. Sorry. Hello?
Halo Pak Zul.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. Okay, Prof. Junaidi Mistar, sorry for the inconvenience. Prof. Junaidi Mistar is one of the leading professors in language learning strategies. And currently he is a professor at this, hello?
Pak Zul, you are muted.
Okay, well, so sorry for this inconvenience. Okay, sorry for this inconvenience. Now let me introduce the second keynote speaker, Prof. Junaidi Mistar. He earned his PhD from Monash University, one of the top university in Australia. And currently he is the Vice Rector 1 for Cooperation and Academic Affairs. Prof. Junaidi is one of the leading scholars in language learning strategies, and he has already published numerous articles in very reputable journals. Now, let's welcome and invite our second keynote speaker, Prof. Junaidi Mistar, and give him a round of applause. Time is yours, Prof. Junaidi Mistar.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Pak Zul. The Honorable Director of Unisma, Bapak Profesor Dr. Haji Maskuri, MSc, the Director of the Postgraduate Program, Professor Masud Said, PhD, and also the Honorable, the Head of the English Study Program, Ibu Dr. Hajah Mutmainah Mustafa, my colleagues, Mr. Joshua Tokar. We met you quite a number of times virtually, but we haven't met physically, but that should be okay, I think. And also Mr. Surendra Mukherjee. And of course, the participants of the webinar, we've got around 400, more than 400 participants are joining now.
107.
407. Wow, it's really amazing.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, I've got a topic from the committee that's about student self-assessment in ELT. Just now we had Joshua talking about how to develop instructional materials using technology, and in his talk, he touched a little bit about learners' autonomy, learners' independence in learning, and that's going to be one of my topics too. I would like to start my presentations with a slide, in Bahasa Indonesia, because I got this slide in a conference this morning, about a shift in the paradigm of teaching and learning activities in the past and at present. By referring to two psychological schools, they are behaviorisms and constructivisms. And then how these schools of psychology look at the roles of the teachers or lecturers and the roles of the students. In the behavioristic view, the teacher is supposed to be the source of knowledge, the source of information. But then in the constructivistic view, the teacher or the lecturer should be a facilitator in the teaching learning process. In the behavioristic view, the teacher may say, without me, the students will not be able to do anything. But in the constructivistic view, the students will be able to be independent of the teachers. In the behavioristic view, because the teacher assumes that his position is very important, so without the teacher, the teaching learning activities will not occur, and then the students will have to be present in their classes. Then when they are already in the classes, they will have to listen to what the teacher's explanations, and the teacher's explanations are supposed to be enough. So when the students understand what the teachers explain, then the teaching learning process is supposed to occur. But then in the constructivistic view, because the teacher or the lecturer is a facilitator, so that the students may be independent of the teachers, the learning process does not necessarily occur in a face-to-face situation. So even in a situation something like this, in the virtual face-to-face, we are still in the face-to-face situations actually, but the learning can also be asynchronous in the sense that there is no direct face-to-face interactions between the teacher and the learners. In that case, then the teacher's explanations may not be enough for the students to learn. Then, on the part of the students' roles now, the behavioristic view will assume that what the students get in their learning is what the teachers teach. So no more than that. In this case, the teaching learning process centers around the teacher, not centers around the students. That's why in the constructivistic view, those views are changed in the sense that what the students get from their learning may develop. The students may develop their own knowledge, their own skills, their own attitude after the teaching learning process, so that the students will have to be responsible of their own learning. That's what Pa Joshua just now called autonomy in learning, the learner's learning autonomy. So in this case, teaching learning should not always be in the face-to-face situations. So my focus dealing with this will be on the students' autonomy, the students' independence in learning. And as we know, when we are learning, there are 3 steps. First, learning preparations, and then learning process, and then assessments. So planning, and then acting, this is the teaching learning process, and then the assessment. And then in these three, our focus will be on the last part, that's about assessment. Right. When we are talking about assessment, there are a number of principles that we have to think of when we are constructing, developing our assessment instruments, for example. One is that the assessment that we carry out should be practical. Our assessment instrument should be practical in the sense that it's not excessively expensive. The assessment that we carry out should stay within appropriate time constraint. So when the time allotment is just 30 minutes, then we can design the assessment in 30 minutes. The next one is that the assessment should be relatively easy to administer. And then there has to be a clear scoring guide. Okay, that's the first principle in terms of the practicality. The second one is in terms of the validity. The assessment should be valid. The concept of validity here has something to do with the appropriateness of inferences that we get from our assessment. The inferences should be appropriate, meaningful. The data that we get from our assessment should be appropriate, should be in line with the purpose of assessment. To make it short, usually we say that our assessment is valid when we really assess what we want to assess. So when we are assessing reading skill, for example, then the data that we get should be really about reading skill. The ability to get information from the text. Our assessment instruments should not measure anything else. Something like it measures the student's prior knowledge, for example. If that's the case, then our assessment is called not valid. The next one is about the reliability. It has something to do with the consistency and dependability of the scores that we obtain from our assessment. For example, let's say we have an assessment, then we get the scores from our assessment. When we assess, let's say in a number of times, more than once, for example, then we will get more or less the same result. If that's the case, our data that we get from our assessment is consistent. When it is consistent, then it is dependable. It is trustable. Okay. Next, the next principle has something to do with the authenticity, the degree of correspondence of the characteristics of a given language assessment task to the feature of a target language task. So the task that we design in our assessment should represent the real task in real world. If that's the case, then our assessment is called authentic. Okay, then talking about the assessment here, it also there is also a shift, a change in the way we consider assessment. We have three here, three ways of looking at assessment process as part of a learning activity. Our traditional view, look at the pyramid here. We have three prepositions, as, for, and of, to connect the two words assessment and learning. We have assessment as learning, or assessment for learning, and assessment of learning. Our traditional view rely very much on assessment of learning, that we are measuring how much the students achieve the objective that we already stated. we put very little emphasis on the use of assessment activities as a part of learning activities. Here at the top of the pyramid here. This is our traditional view. Now we are trying to, to put the other way around. So we have assessment as learning activities to be more, to get much more attention from teachers instead of assessment of learning. With the assessment as learning activity here, the assessment, the measurement of the evaluation is not only on the product of learning, but also on the process of learning. So in this case, learners will have to be able to monitor their own learning activity so that the assessment will be part of the learning activities. So this is what we mean by assessment as learning. Right. Then in the assessment, we have, in relations with how we view assessment just now, we have two types of assessment. One is called the traditional assessment, which is mostly in the form of test, either standardized or non-standardized. And this is the new one, which is called alternative assessment. When we have a test, we, we put the burden of assessment on the teacher. The teacher will have to develop the assessment instrument, the teacher will have to administer, and the teacher will have to be able to score and then interpret the result of the assessment. With the alternative assessment, the burden may shift, may change from the teacher to the learner, just the same as the focus of learning. In the learning activity, we change the focus from the teacher to the learner, from the teacher's activities to the learner's activities. So we change from the teacher-centered learning to the student-centered learning. So in the assessment is the same. We also try to change the focus from the teacher to the learner. That's why in the alternative assessment here, we then introduce the term self-assessment, student self-assessment as an alternative assessment. So what is it actually? Let's have a look at the concept. Well, it is quite easy. What we mean by self-assessment here is assessment that involves learners in making judgment of their own learning process and their own learning achievement. So instead of the teachers who do the assessment, then in this case, we involve the students to assess themselves. Just have an illustrations of, let's say, a patient who is seeing a doctor. In my opinion, the only one who knows the best about the conditions of the patient is the patient himself, not the doctor. The patient knows how well he is, how worse he is. That's why then we can, in the context of students learning, we can ask the students to assess themselves. That's what we mean by self-assessment. But of course, with the idea of promoting self-assessment here, there are two positions. Some people agree while others disagree. Those who agree think that self-assessment will foster greater learner autonomy. That's what Pak Joshua just talked about. the learners who are capable of planning, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating their own learning. That's what we mean by autonomous learners. Those who are capable of planning their learning, implementing their learning activities, monitor their learning progress, and then evaluate their learning achievement. With the self-assessment, some people believe that it will lead to greater learner autonomy. But on the other side, there are also people who disagree with the use of self-assessment. They base on reasons something like the students do not have sufficient training yet. Because the students do not have sufficient training in assessing themselves, then the assessment that they do tends to be too subjective, leading to the occurrences of over-assessment or under-assessment. It is hypothesized that high achiever learners tend to under-assess themselves. On the other hand, the low achiever learners tend to over-assess themselves. Younger learners tend to over-assess, while older learners tend to under-assess. Female learners tend to female learners tend to under-assess, male learners tend to over-assess themselves. But they are just hypotheses which need to be further clarified, further studied, so you have more scientific evidence about it. Right. What about the empirical evidence now? Let's turn to empirical evidence. When we are talking about the empirical evidence, we may refer to findings of studies. Well, I'm quite lucky that, almost or even more, 10 years ago, I was assigned to be a visiting scholar in the Michigan State University. I was there for nearly 3 months. I was lucky at that time to have a study, a research project. Not really a research project, because at that time I visited the students in the English Language Center, but I designed in such a way that it was a research project. Well, at that time, there were 78 newly arrived internationals coming to the English Language Center, Michigan State Universities. They were from, I'm not mistaken, from 14 countries around the world. So I used them as the subjects of the, small study. Those students were asked to rate themselves in terms of their ability, their skills in listening and speaking. Well, actually in interactive skills too, but in these occasions, I just I just take these 2 scales. So the students are asked to self-assess themselves in terms of their listening and speaking skills with questions something like this. I can understand an explanations given over the radio of why a road has been temporarily closed. I can understand an explanations given over the radio. So this is assessing the students' listening skill. So we ask the students to assess, to rate themselves in terms of their listening scale in using 5 scales, 1 to 5. Then we use 10 items for assessing listening scale, for the self-assessments of listening scale. We also have 10 items for assessing students' speaking scale. Something like, I can tell someone about something humorous that recently happened to me. So the students will rate themselves in a scale 1 to 5. 1 means very poor, 5 means very good. So 1 means very poor, 2 poor, 3 fair, 4 good, and then 5 very good. So in this case, because we have 10 items for assessing listening, 10 items for assessing speaking, so that the highest score will be 50 for each. Then after the students rated themselves, they were then tested. They were then tested using a 50-item listening test and an oral performance test. So we have 3 instruments here. One is self-assessment, assessing, asking the students to rate themselves in terms of their listening and speaking skills. And then we also have a test for listening and a test of an oral performance. Then the data that we get from the self-assessment instrument and the test are correlated, and the coefficients looks like this. These are the findings that I get from the data analysis. We got the correlation coefficient, something like this. When I correlate the scores of self-assessments in listening skill with the result of the listening test, I found a coefficient 0.416. When the self-assessment of speaking skill were correlated with the scores from the speaking test, we got the coefficient 0.660. And these 2, well, actually these 4, these correlation coefficients are significant at 0.01 level. So what does it mean then? It means that something like this: students who rate themselves high in the self-assessment turns out to have high scores in the test of listening and speaking. So those who score themselves high, when they are tested, their scores are really high. Conversely, those who rate themselves low, when they are tested using real tests, their scores are low. Based on these findings, then I say that I conclude that the data that we get from self-assessment are as reliable as the data that we get from the test. In other words, the data from self-assessment are trustable. Therefore, I recommend in my presentation here that the use of self-assessment could be promoted in foreign language classes. So we can ask the students to rate or to score themselves. So we provide some descriptions, so that they could rate, they could assess themselves, and based on the findings of the study that I did, the data that we get from self-assessments are as reliable as the data that we get from tests. Of course, there are some samples that we need to refer when we are designing self-assessment. This is one of the samples of self-assessment I take from Omala in Peace in 1996, something like this. We have the students to rate themselves, not very well, okay, well, very well. I can ask questions in class, then the students may rate themselves here. Another example, something like this from Brown 2004. For example, I demonstrate active listening in class. Here we have scores 5 to 1. 5 means very well, 1 means very poorly. I volunteer my comments in small group discussion, small group work. And so, okay, good. These are just examples of the self-assessment form that we can use. Okay, I think that's all. But Zul, thank you for joining these sessions. Hopefully we can have discussions in our next sessions. Okay, thank you very much, Fazul. Back to you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thanks a lot for nice and well-organized presentation, Prof. Jin. Yeah, explaining from the shifting paradigm in learning and then coming to more specific in assessment. And finally, two more, again, very specific to self-assessment. Yeah, proven with some empirical evidence, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, again, for those who want to ask questions, please post your question on the chat box. Later, the presenters or keynote speakers will read and respond to your questions. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, let's move to the third presenter or keynote speaker, Prof. Adnan Latif. I'm so sorry for this inconvenience. I mean, that Adnan Latif cannot be a keynote speaker today due to the health conditions. So let's pray for him, hoping that he will get better soon and he can be around with us. So let's keep Prof. Adnan Latif and let's come to the fourth or last presenter or keynote speaker, Mr. Surendra Mukherjee. Mr. Surendra Mukherjee is the Acadia Chief Technology Officer. He is a technocrat with a passion, with strong passion for education, innovation, and information technology. And he has experienced more than 20 years in technology. Interestingly, not only he is the software engineer, he holds an MBA degree from INSEAD French. So he is also accountant. He has a degree in MBA. Now let's welcome our fourth presenter or keynote speakers, Mr. Surendra Mukherjee, and give her an applause.
Thank you. I hope everyone can see me. Thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you for this great opportunity. I'm really honored to be here today, and I hope that I will be sharing something that will be useful for everyone. I want to thank all the respected teachers and other keynote speakers. It was really a wonderful experience listening to them. Firstly, Mr. Joshua mentioned about Homo Socialis. That means we are all social human beings. So I will talk about social interactions and how it is done. He also talked about various tools, which is my specialty. So I will talk about how the tools can be integrated in the classroom and what differences it makes. Also, listening to Junaidi, I really learned a lot. It was fantastic experience listening to him. Thank you, sir, for that. Okay, and you talked about assessment and alternate assessment. And even though I did not want to touch on the topic, but hopefully if time persists, I will just touch on the topic from technology perspective as well. So with that, I think probably my presentation would be just an implementation of what we have learned or heard from the two speakers. I hope it will be very interesting. So with that, let's start with the presentation. In my presentation today, I will cover three things. So I will give a brief introduction to what is Academia, what we do, and why we do it. And then I will talk about my passion, which is technology in education. I will talk about all the tools which Mr. Joshua mentioned before, Edpuzzle and many other tools. So that's basically my specialty. And also the third thing I will touch about is how do we collaborate? Because as Mr. Joshua mentioned, right now, the only audience we have is a small dot on the top of our computers. So in this pandemic times, how do we interact with each other? So first, an introduction to who we are. So we are at Academia. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Academia. Academia is a new company. It's a Singapore-based company. It's a mission-driven education tech company which aims to empower educators everywhere. And why do we aim to empower educators? It's very simple. We believe that teachers are the center of the education system. And for us, technology is just an enabler to help the teachers achieve what they want to achieve in the class. And how we do it is through Freeju. And we are actually launching the second version 2 of our platform very soon in August. So with that, let me share my screen. And I will also ensure that I share the sound. I hope everyone can see the screen. So this is our website, academia.com, if you want to know about it. And I will be talking about Freeju version 2, which is coming soon. And we have a promotion running of pre-registering to Freeju version 2. And if you do it, you will be entitled for 10 professional development courses for teachers, absolutely free. And this is the platform for Freeju. As I mentioned, we are the global community for educators. So what exactly do we do? We have 5 pillars for education. First and foremost, we have a pillar called Collab. This is for collaboration within the teachers. Now, why do we do it? Because education does not only happen in the class. Learning also happens in the staff room, in the meeting room, when we interact with each other. So we have a social network for teachers, which is absolutely safe for both the teachers and the students. And this allows teachers to interact with each other and also interact globally. So if you want to do a cross-country collaboration research study, this will be the platform to do so. Also, we have a platform called Skilled, where teachers can learn. And what we teach them, apart from other things, is how to learn and create courses online. Now, we also believe that the best way to learn is by doing. And that's why we have the third platform, which is called Designed. And this is a place where the teachers can design their courses without any anxiety, without getting judged. They can create their courses, they can try it out. And if they create the courses and they're happy with it, they can actually export the courses to the learning management system which their school might be having, or even onboard students in our platform itself to teach the students online. Now, later this year, we will also be coming out with something called Marketed. So this is one place where teachers can buy gadgets, electronic items at teachers' discount. And they will also be able to sell their own artifacts, anything that they think are useful for other teachers. So Mr. Joshua mentioned that there are certain checklists available. There might be certain PPT videos which you might have created for your course. So this is one place you can host them and probably sell to other teachers who need it. And finally, we are also planning to come out with Employed. That is the job portal for teachers. And the reason being, once you learn in our environment, we know what you have learned, your credential. So it becomes very easy for the teachers to apply for jobs with all their credentials and ratings. So this is a brief introduction of what Acadesia is, what we do, and about our new version of Freeju platform, which we're launching next month. So a reminder that if you want to experience it ourselves, you can go and pre-register, you can get access to the system absolutely free. Now, with that said, I will do two other things. First and foremost, I will show you how an online classroom or online course looks like in Freeju. And secondly, I will talk about all the other technologies which you can integrate with a Freeju course or curriculum. So this is the Freeju platform. So once you log in, you will be able to first see a dashboard. Let me ensure that you can see the complete dashboard. I hope everyone are able to see the dashboard. So in this dashboard, you can see I logged in as a teacher profile, and I have two parts of the dashboard. One is a skilled. This is where I, as a teacher, is getting trained to how to teach better, how to teach online. And this is all my dashboard. And also I have a dashboard for designed, where I create courses and I practice them. So you can see I have created two courses, Become Online Educator in 21st Century and Technology in Education. So I can practice, I can do things that I want to try, which I've learned in the classroom in the skilled. And later I can onboard students into the platform as well. So this is how a course looks like. So you can see this is the course, which is Become Online Educator for 21st Century. So I want to give a live demo of what it looks like. So you can click on any of these. So I will go through some of the tools to show you how you can use it in the learning of English language. So the first tool which I want to show you is Flipgrid. So you can see this is a Flipgrid that is integrated within the course. So students need not go out of the course. So I will just log in to the Flipgrid account. And you can see this is the course. It's a very simple course. So what you can say is, if you want to teach speaking, one of the exercises that you can give the students is, why don't you record a response and upload here? You can see my previous recording is here. So in this platform, the students can record some kind of speech, some kind of presentation. We spoke about students giving some news audits, telling news about something that they care about. They can record. And once the students record, other students will be able to see previous recording. Now, this is a very powerful tool because we spoke about gamification. How can we create a game? So not only that students upload their videos, they can probably also rate each other's videos or give points to each other. So we can say, hey, look, if you upload your own video, you get 10 points. But if you review and rate somebody else's video in your class, you also get 1 point. So that way we can make the class interaction really high. Students will not only be excited about uploading their videos, but also they will be looking at each other and learning from each other, the peer-to-peer learning. So this is one of the tools that you can integrate right into the course in Freeju, which is called Flipgrid. The other one I want to talk about is Padlet. So this is a discussion board. So you can see I have some text. I'm telling something about online education, and then I open the Padlet for teachers to come and discuss. Okay, so we can all share our thoughts, and the thoughts can be put in one place for people to see. Let's say I add some thoughts, maybe how to use AR, VR in teaching English. So this may be one of the thoughts, and this actually we can collaborate all at once, put our thoughts, and then we can go back and see each other thoughts about the topic that is mentioned. So this is also a very powerful tool to be used in the classroom, because here the students can interact with each other and learn from each other's ideas. So this tool is called Padlet. The third tool is basically called Edpuzzle. Joshua spoke about Edpuzzle. So with Edpuzzle, you can convert any YouTube videos or any other videos that you might be having and make it much more interactive. So you can see that here it's a YouTube video about an historical event called the Boston Massacre. And you can see at these points, we have questions inbuilt on them. So after listening to something, it's like comprehension skills. After listening to something, we immediately post a question and see if the student could comprehend what was mentioned in the video. So the listening skills we can test then and there. And also it also kind of ensures that the students are engaged in the class, because you cannot just run the video and skip and go to next and finish the course, because unless you give the exam, you will not be able to proceed to the next level. So let me try playing it
together, showing the event between the British soldiers and the American colonists. Do you think the artist was on the side of the British soldiers or on the side of the colonists? Support your answer by describing details from the image.
So as you can see, we are asking the question right in the middle, and I can give my answer here. But if I'm not sure, I can go back and rewatch. And only if I answer, I will be able to go to the next level, proceed with the video. So this is one of the tools which Joshua talked about, Edpuzzle, and you can integrate that in our system as well. So one thing I forgot to mention, that all our courses are bilingual. So we can have English and we can have Bahasa Indonesia. So our systems support multiple languages as well. So as of now, our system supports Hindi, Bahasa Indonesia, Filipino, and Vietnamese. Moving forward, we have we have something called assignment. So sometimes we are talking about probably assessment. So we can have in English language, you can have something like an essay type questions or some worksheets for the students to complete. So what you can do is you can give them a handout, and once the students complete, they can actually upload the handout. So it can be a PDF file or Word document. So you can give them a handout, they read, they complete the worksheet, and then they can upload, and they can do this securely here instead of going to Google Docs or any other shared drive. This is very secure within the system, within your control, and you will be able to see it. And as I mentioned that you have a dashboard, so every time a student submits an assignment, you will be able to see the assignment here. And just like any other social media tools like Facebook, you will get an alert here as well saying that, hey, somebody has submitted an assignment. So this is very reactive for the teachers. They need not constantly monitor the activities, but whenever an activity is done on the platform, they will be notified. The next tool I want to mention is Canva. I think all of you are very accustomed to it. So I'm showing a simple lesson plan, and you can see that it is embedded in the Canva itself, in the course builder itself. So you can integrate this tool with the course as well. You can also integrate Zoom and Jitsi. So you can see that I have scheduled something. The students will be able to join in the browser itself, or usually they prefer an app, they can join with app. And just like Zoom, we have also integrated Jitsi in the system. And finally, like what Professor Junaidi said, assessment. I just want to talk about assessment. So I read a very interesting study which was done in UK, if I remember correctly, back in 2018. And the same study was done in 2019 as well. And the study was how much time does the teacher spend on administrative activities, such as grading scores or onboarding students and all the other meetings and all. And across UK, it was found that 20% of the teacher's time goes into administrative activities like grading courses and onboarding and offboarding students. So this is a very powerful platform, and Professor Junaidi talked about the alternative way of doing assessment, and I will show you just a glimpse of it. So first, Professor Junaidi, I learned so much from you today. You mentioned about the key features of doing an assessment, and the first thing is a time limit. So you can see that I have a time limit to complete this course. And if your question is multiple choice question or fill in the blanks or mix and match, maybe words with their meanings, mix and match, or even you have a list of words and they have to select, fill in the blanks based on the list of words, trying to assess their vocabulary, their word skills, all those things, all those questions can be accessed by the computer itself. So if I click on something and proceed to next, so this is multiple choice question. I have to give two answers. I can even ask open-ended question. Let's say I type something. So you can see there are various options possible. So if I want to do an order question, we can do it here as well. And you can see there's a mix and match question. So all these questions except for open-ended questions are something that the system can rate themselves. You can see that I have the fill in the blanks question. I was dashed by the circus, especially the trapeze dash, and the joker made me dash. So basically it's testing their language skills. So for the sake of simplicity, I will just put, or probably so we can have some rating as well. We can have maths quiz as well. We can give mathematical equations as well. And once the assessment is done, the system will rate the students. So which is very productive for the teachers, because for this kind of assessment, it does not need the teachers to do all these administrative activities. So it basically says that I have done 9 out of 14. What is the average score of the class? This is to motivate the children to do better. You can see the questions. What are the answers? They can do self-correction. So they can see what are the questions they have done wrong. And depending on the topic, they can go back and revise that. And once again, whenever they submit a quiz, you will be able to see what are the quiz which are submitted. So you will be automatically notified as to how many quizzes were submitted and so on and so forth. Now, I have shown you so many tools, and you might be wondering that, well, how easy or how difficult it is to incorporate all these tools into the lesson. So let me just give you a glimpse of our design platform and see how easy or how difficult it is to integrate any of the tools which I mentioned here. So this is our designed platform. So you can see it's a single page. I will just run through you how it looks like. So on the very first, you have to give some introduction to what the course is all about. You can put multiple languages. You can say whom it is for. Is it a beginner level course or an expert level course? You can give an image. You can upload a video. So this is a very, very basic introduction. You can add other instructors, other teachers as well into collaborating to create the course. So you can add multiple teachers to create the course here. And you can give some additional data as to what is the benefit of doing the course, what is required, if any handouts to be there, any vocabulary list or any other test which is at the end of the course they will be needed, whom it is for. So you can give those additional data. And that's about it. And straight away you can go to start building the course. Now this is how the course builder looks like. It's very, very simple. We have two hierarchy for building a course. One we call lesson and one it's called topic. So it's very much like a book. In the book you have chapter, and within the chapter you might have different passages. So here is also the same. The lessons are basically the chapters, and the topics are basically the different sections, subsections of that chapter. So you can add lesson, and inside the lesson you can add the topics. How you add the topic? You can add a topic, you can add a quiz, you can add an assignment, you can add video or synchronous learning, which is the Zoom and Jitsi. So I will show you how easy it is to add a topic. So I just clicked on add topic. I will just give the topic name. You can add some description. And if you scroll down, you will be able to see that all these tools that I've mentioned are already integrated with the system. So if you want to add an H5P, just click on add an H5P, and you will, once you create an H5P on the portal, you will be able to embed that here. So you create an H5P in any website, free website that is possible. All you need to do, put this code here, and it will be integrated within the platform. You can add assignment, you can add video. So I will show you a video. You can upload a video, or you can even give a link for YouTube. So if you already have a YouTube video, you can just upload it here, and you will be also able to see the preview of the video just to ensure that it is correct. So this is just a glimpse of what the platform is all about. Technology can sometimes be very, very challenging. And as I mentioned, it is to help the students, to engage the students, to help the teachers. But we at Acadesia have tried to make it very, very simple for the teachers. It's as simple as clicking and adding, and it will be integrated in the platform. Now, I hope that with that presentation, it will show you what is possible with technology, how we can create courses, how we can help students learn the language better using all the tools available, and how easy it is to incorporate in your course. Now, the second thing which I want to show you is about the Freeju platform. So as I mentioned that for Freeju, we have few pillars, and I just want to give a short introduction of what those pillars are. So we talked about collaboration tool, learning, designing, marketed, employed, and schedule. So let me just give you an overview of what they are. So this is where you can go and learn the courses. These are some of the courses we already have. So you can just, if it is free, you can enroll. This is our collaboration tool. If you have used Facebook or any other social media, this is as simple as that. So here the teachers can interact with each other very, very safely. And they can interact with teachers not only within their country, but also with other countries. We have about 100,000 teachers in our platform today in the version 1 who come from over 35 countries. So this is one platform where teachers can securely interact with each other. So you can see that I just posted a message for all the teachers who are attending this webinar. You can see who are the active members, who are the recently active members, and who are online. So this is our collaboration tool. Apart from collaboration, we also have something called groups. So as a teacher, you will be able to create your own groups. So you can create groups based on the courses that you have done, or maybe public school teachers in Indonesia or English teachers in Indonesia. You can create your own groups, and people, the teachers around the world or within the country will be able to join those groups. So you can create a group which is a public group or a private group where you have all the control. And once you click on the group like this, you will be able to see that within the groups we have rooms. So within the Acadasia group, we have rooms for English teachers in Philippines, in Vietnam, in Indonesia. So you can have different topics where you can discuss and you can collaborate with the teachers. Now, this is very powerful because, as I mentioned, that these are very typical times. We can't meet face to face, but also there are a lot of learning goes on, which is collaborative. So we need a secure platform for the teachers to collaborate. And that is why we have come with this concept of groups and rooms. Not only you can interact with teachers within your own institute, but you can even reach out to other countries and do cross-border research programs through this platform. So you have groups. You can see who are the members, you can send them invite, and you have the rooms where you can interact. And finally, I think I already shared how the courses look like. You can see this is one of the courses, actual courses that we have. We have video embedded in the course. So I will just play the video. This is very interactive to engage the students, to improve their listening skills. And just after the video, I have something called H5P. So I can ask them questions where they have to fill up and they can submit and check their scores. So this was an overview of the tools that are available in the market to help learn language, to help the teachers teach the English language, and also how the teachers can collaborate during this time, how they can interact with each other in a very similar to social media platform, or also in private groups for specific topics in the Free platform. So once again, our version 2 will be releasing in August, just a few weeks from now. And you can go and pre-register and you will be able to get 10 free courses to upskill the teachers if you pre-register. And if you use, you can even use the referral code, my referral code, which is here. You can see SOU 2021. And with that, you will be entitled for 10 free courses. So once again, thank you. It was a great opportunity. It was an opportunity for me to learn from the previous speakers. Really honored to be able to speak to 400 plus participants today. And I really hope that you have also learned something from me, just the way I learned from the other speakers. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mr. Surendra, for a nice presentation, which try to introduce the new platform in language learning, and it seemed to me it is very fun and interesting. So learning will be more enjoyable, I think. And interestingly, this platform also give the self-assessment. So the teacher should not be busy with the job of assessment, I think. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think all the three presenters have already presented clearly, and I have seen that there are a huge number of questions for each keynote speaker. Now I give chance to all keynote speaker to select 2 or 3 questions, not all questions, because it's too many because of the time constraint. So I give each presenter around 5 minutes to respond 2 or 3 questions. Now I give chance first to Mr. Joshua Tokar to choose 2 or 3 questions to respond to. Time is yours, Mr. Joshua Tokar.
Okay, thank you. I guess I didn't realize that I would need to choose the questions myself. So now I gotta see if I can find them in here. There's a lot of things here. Okay, I found one question by, oh, I'm probably gonna say it wrong, but there's a Saiful who wrote a question, okay? And now that it's the era of technology, he writes, teachers can't avoid teaching from media of technology. In the beginning, you compared face-to-face with online communication. And I need your answer where it's better to communicate face-to-face and online, the disadvantages and advantages. I think I talked a little bit about this, but essentially, you know, I don't think we can say one is better than the other. I think both are a part of our world today. And so I just don't think that we can, I think our maybe natural perception, because it's traditional, is that we're used to this face-to-face classroom learning. But I just think we don't need to be afraid of the online types of interactions that we can have. And in fact, what I was trying to point out is that there are a lot of advantages to interaction that happens online, even when it's not live in like this in Zoom. Even when we are just look at chat, when we look at discussion forums, like things our previous presenter, Mr. Mukherjee, just told us about, right? So many ways we can interact with each other online in very meaningful ways that are very useful for language learning. So, and in some ways there's more advantages to that because we have time to process and think about our language in a deeper way. But we also need that face-to-face interaction too, because that's a part of our world and a need for language also. I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if you're hearing that too, but I'm hearing myself. I don't know why. So I apologize if that's happening for you as well. Okay. Trying to find one more question here. I did see another question from someone about what should we do about in the villages. A lot of you may be teaching in areas where students have poor access to the internet. Maybe they don't have a lot of access to computers or other devices. And I think we need to be sensitive to that and think about that as we are, you know, looking at some of these different digital tools, because maybe some students only have access to a mobile phone. You know, not everyone has even access to a computer. They might not have internet all the time, or they have limits to the amount of data they can use. So I think we need to be thinking about, creating alternative types of ways of reaching our students, and not always, we do a lot maybe live also on Zoom with things like Zoom, but perhaps recording lessons and allowing students to access when they are able to, because it's very hard. We even have our participants in this meeting where we're up at 400, we're down to 390. It's kind of coming in and out because people are losing their signal too. So, if there's a, using an LMS like FreeJew is, it's the first time I've heard of that, but that's a new one that's coming that looks like it will be very useful. The ones, I'm more familiar with are ones like Moodle and others, for example, so, if you just look at Moodle, for example, like one of my students did a project on here creating a course, and, she was able to upload a lesson here for students. So it's not necessarily important that they would attend a live class, but they can come on here and watch this video, much like our previous presenter just shared with us, right? And different at different points in the video, questions and things will come up that will help them to be able to follow along with the lesson and be engaged in the lesson. And also the teacher then gets feedback about how the student is doing, how they are performing, without necessarily having to be in a live situation with a student. One of the things that's really nice about it is that then, we can see that progress. There's all sorts of reports that can happen in those kinds of environments for a teacher. A lot of automated grading, things like that are very useful for us as a teacher. So I think when we're designing lessons, we should be considerate of the fact that and maybe even having alternate types of assignments that students who don't have good access would be able to also accomplish those things.
Okay. That's all, Pak Joshua Tukar.
Well, there was 2 questions there, so I thought we were for 2 questions. So.
Okay. That's all. Okay. Thanks a lot, Mr. Joshua Tukar, for the nice responses to the student questions. Now, let's move to the second presenter or keynote speaker, Prof. Junaidi Mistar, to respond to 2 or 3 questions from the participants. Now, time is yours, Prof. Junaidi.
Okay, good. Thank you, Pak Zul. The questions which are addressed to me related to the quality of the data that we get from the self-assessment, either in terms of the validity and reliability. Something like questions from we have a number of questions. One is from Pak Nur Salam, asking about the validity. How can we guarantee the validity of the assessment, of the self-assessment? Okay, as we learned that the concept of validity is that when our assessment instrument measures what we want to measure, then our instrument is valid. That's why then in the items of the self-assessment that we develop should measure the learning objective that we already set up. in the example here, we have 6 items of the questions. Well, we may design the number of questions depending on the number of the learning objective that we have in our lesson plan. For example, let's say we are teaching writing skills. The students are expected to be able to write let's say an essay consisting of, let's say, the introductory paragraph, the body, and the concluding paragraph. So then for the first item, let's say we have something like this. I can write an introductory paragraph, and then the answers will be either not very well, okay, well, very well. And we ask the students to rate themselves in terms of these 4 criteria. So when the items that we write here are developed based on the learning objective that we set in our lesson plan, then our self-assessment is valid. The next question is about how to convert the scores, converting the scores. Well, when we have something like this, we may need to convert the students' answers into scores. Then we can, well, we can, what is it? Develop some kind of range. Let's say very well here is an A, well is B, okay. Well is, let's say, B plus, okay is B, not very well is C or C minus, and so on. Well, it's up to us as the teacher in deciding the scores, depending on the range that we use. And sometimes we use the instrument which is in the form of scores, so we don't need to convert the students' answers into scores. Something like this, let me show you. The one that I use for my class, for example, something like this. I use this kind of thing in my class instead of designing a test for the students, because I'm teaching seminar on ELT. The students will have to learn research articles in order to improve their understanding about teaching learning process, and also about research methodology, and also to equip the students with skills in preparing presentations, oral presentations. Sorry, it's in Bahasa Indonesia, Pak Joshua and Pak Ran. Sorry about it. For those who are Indonesian participants, I think we can understand this one. For example, A here, I put something like this. The articles that we discuss in the class improve my understanding, my comprehensions of the teaching learning process in English. The scores ranges from 40 to 100. VP means very poor, poor, fair, almost good, good, very good, and excellent. So we ask the students to rate themselves. Let's say some students score themselves to be, well, my understanding is just 65. Next, for B, the articles that we discuss in the class improve our understanding on the research methodology. That's good. My understanding at, let's say, 80. Some students score themselves as 80, others score themselves as 70, and so on. And I think the scores that the students give about themselves are reliable. So we trust them. We trust the scores that the students give. That's why then I don't need to design a test for them to measure their understanding about the articles now, because I just ask them to assess themselves. Okay, so another question. Do we need to develop tests to complement the self-assessment? Well, it is good when we develop a test, a real test to complement our self-assessment. And we can also analyze, we can check whether my claim that the student scores in the self-assessment are trustable, are reliable, can be checked when we design the test. And this self-assessment can be a way out in the pandemic era when some teachers do not really trust their students' scores, because when they gave a test, they cannot control whether the test is really done by the students. They cannot control whether, because they may think that some students may cheat in the test. That's why then one solution is by asking them to rate themselves. That's one way, I think, to to overcome the problems of assessments in this pandemic era. I think that's all, Pak Zul, from me. Thank you for all the participants, audience, for the questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot, Prof. Jun, for clear explanation, clear responses to the participant questions. Now, the last keynote speaker to respond is Mr. Surendra. Mr. Surendra, please select 2 or 3 questions to respond to. The time is yours. Hello, Pak Surendra. Hello, Mr. Surendra.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry, I was on mute. Can you hear me now? Hello.
Yes,
hello.
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I will try to answer 3 questions. First is about the Freeju platform. So our mission is to make education free. That's why it is called Freeju. So the platform is absolutely free for students. As far as teachers are concerned, the collaboration platform is absolutely free for teachers. The skilled platform, there are many free courses available for teachers to upskill themselves. And even for groups, if the groups are public, the teachers are free to join them. So let me just show it to you. If you see all the courses, you can see they're free courses, and this is absolutely free for teachers to enroll and learn. You can also see that I'm accessing this platform from Chrome. So this is a web-based platform. You don't need any app to access this. You can just register and you will be able to access this platform. Our platform is also mobile responsive. That means if you're accessing this through Chrome or any other browser from Android phone, you will be able to see exactly the same thing. So you don't need an app to access this. And the same goes for the students as well. There was one question about digital divide. That means what if I don't have access to internet? Well, one good thing which I think Mr. Joshua also mentioned, that they can access these courses as and when it is available. So if they have access to internet for 1 hour, they should be able to do that. But other good things about this kind of platform is it eases the hassle for the physical infrastructure distribution, like distributing question papers, books, assignments. So once you do those things digitally, it becomes much, much easier. So I would say that yes, there are some pros and cons of having a digital system. The third thing I want to mention is about Ispring and Moodle. So all the platforms today follow the same protocol called SCORM. So if you have existing courses in Moodle, you should be able to export SCORM and import that in Freeju platform. And the same with us. If you create your course in Freeju, you should be able to export and put it in Moodle or any other platform which supports SCORM. So we are in a way very technology independent. No matter what LMS your organization is using, your institute is using, or if you prefer using Moodle, it is actually portable. So you can create here, host it there, or create there, host it here. Is absolutely your choice how you want to do it. And the final question was on the validity of self-assessment. So I think Professor Junaid has mentioned everything that can be said, but I just want to add that there are certain digital things that we can do. Like in our platform, you can randomize the answer. So if the students are taking the same exam again and again, with the idea that they will be able to pass one sometimes, when we randomize the answers, that might be a bit of challenge. You can also put a limit on how many retakes the student can take. So you can say, hey, only 3 retakes allowed. But once again, the assessment in digital platforms are for students to prepare for probably a final exam, face-to-face exam, or viva voce, or some other exams. We cannot control whether the students are referring to some reference material while giving the exams or not. But we have to position that probably more as if this is for their benefit that they take this. It is absolutely safe environment for them to try, retake, fail, and learn. And this is basically a step towards preparing for the final exam. So hopefully I have answered the questions which were raised about FreeJu and about technology.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mr. Surendra, for demonstrating and showing how to use FreeJu, which is absolutely free for a student or even teacher. Okay, I think that's all our webinar today. Again, thanks a lot for your active participation in this webinar. And now I would like to kick back this session to Master Ceremony, Pak Dr. Imam Wahyudi Karimullah. Now the time is yours, Pak Imam Wahyudi Karimullah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zulfikri, for being the moderator. Give another round of applause for our speakers this afternoon. It's a very important topic that we have discussed this afternoon. Until now, we still have like more than 300 participants. This is a very interesting.
That's and 48.
Yeah, so very, very important topics that we have discussed, and we have a very excellent speakers from Pak Joshua Tokar, sharing his perspective from his experience teaching Unisma student ICT-based material development, and Professor Junaidi also shared a very important topic about self-assessment. So the majority of the participants now are teachers, and hopefully they can trust the students to self-assessment, to do the self-assessment by themselves. Yeah, and then we just got a very new presentation from Akadasia, Mr. Ren Mukherjee. He has a very strong background in technology and education. He is IT specialist working in the area of ICT-based education platform. And Bapak Ibu, it is time for us for closing speech. But I have the request from Ibu Dr. Haja Mutmainah Mustafa to read Surat Al-Fatihah together for Professor Adnan Latif, which was announced by Pak Zulfikri that Prof. Adnan Latif, our third speaker, now is in the hospital. Hopefully, Professor Adnan Latif will get better soon, speed recovery. Let's recite Surat Al-Fatihah together for him. Al-Hadiniyah Al-Fatihah. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Arrahmanir rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, time for us to have a closing speech. I would like to invite Director of Postgraduate Program of University of Islam Malang, Professor M. Masud, PhD, to deliver his closing speech. Let's join us with a round of applause, Professor M. Masud, PhD.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Director of University of Islam Malang, Professor Dr. Maskuri, Honorable the Keynote Speakers, Professor Junaidi Mistar, Mr. Joshua M. Takor, also M. Surendra Mukherjee, and then special thanks to Haja Mutmainah, Head of Master Degree of ELT in University of Unisma Malang. I am very, very happy to have this seminar. I am learning a lot from your presentation. The topics are very interesting. The duration of seminars are very long, and also the participants are very huge. It is, for me, it is very amazing. And then I learned a lot from, for example, Joshua M. Takor. He said that humans are tools users and also tools maker. It makes me realize that in English teaching, the topic is not only how to master the structure and the pronunciation, but also the IT-based material development. And then Professor Junaidi remind us the importance of shifting new paradigm in English teaching, not merely focusing on the teacher and the lecturer, and also focus on the student role and independence of the students. And then from Mr. Mukherjee, I learned a lot from a global community for English educators. And then also Bu Mutmainah make it very well managed. Thank you, Pak Bu. And then I also recognize that the participant is some of them are the top figure in English teaching in SMA, SMK, kepala-kepala sekolah, and so on. So I'm very happy. And then before closing statement, I think let me read pantun first in bahasa Indonesia.
Thank you, Prof.
Rakit-rakit ke hulu, berenang-renang ke tepian. Mastering IT terdahulu, baru kita mengajar kemudian. Terima kasih.
Good.
And then I hope that the next seminar will be managed soon. And then as a director, I would like to thank very much to the speakers, to the participants, to the committee, moderator, and also Pak Imam Wahyudi. Stay safe, stay healthy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so very much, Professor Masud Said, PhD, the Director of Postgraduate Program of University of Islam Malang. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, please kindly fill out the link that we have shared in our chat. We will send material from the presenters, as well as the e-certificate, which will be signed by the Director of Postgraduate Program of Unisma Malang, and then we'll send the e-certificate as well as the material via email to the participants' email that has been registered in the link provided in the chat Zoom meeting of our platform. Again, thank you so very much. I would like to turn on all the audio that everyone can say.
With my imam, I think it is the most important thing usually in the end is photo session. Very important.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Bapak Ibu, let's take a group picture session together. Please turn on the video We can have a photo session with her. One, two, smile. Okay. One more. 2, 3, smile. Okay. 1, 3, smile. Okay. Okay. One more. Okay. One more. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Congratulations for all of us, and thank you for the speakers. It's a very awesome speakers, and we got a lot from our speakers today. And thank you. Wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Jos.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Pak Direktur, terima kasih banyak. Bu Ida dan
Universitas Islam Malang, high quality university with pleasant class atmosphere equipped with the internalized values of Ahlussunnah wal Jamaah. The development of more complete laboratory at Unisma provides service to help the students to achieve excellent and competitive skills. Unisma has 10 accredited faculties with international reputation. Has comfortable, beautiful, conducive, and clean facilities and good infrastructure to motivate and inspire students and the scholars to work and reach achievement. Universitas Islam Malang is a campus equipping students with character building based on the Islamic and Indonesian values. As one of the leading universities in Indonesia, Universitas Islam Malang has been working closely with national and international institutions to improve the quality of education that produce competitive graduates. The development of soft skills for various organizational activities is able to create national and international achievement. Unisma ranked 44 from all public and private universities in Indonesia, the Big 5 private university in East Java Province, and ranked number 1 of Nahdlatul Ulama higher education institution in Indonesia. Unisma is the right university to produce graduates with excellent intellectual, spiritual, social, and emotional intelligence. Taqwa, independent, professional, and committed to provide services to the ummah.
Unisma